Hi, everybody. Good evening. Welcome. If you are looking for Financial Aid 101, you are in the right place. I'm just going to take a minute and babble while everybody joins. I see already we've got about 40 participants on, which is awesome, and we're expecting many, many more. So thank you for joining us. Just a couple notes is that this webinar will be about an hour. And although the chat is not enabled for you right now, the Q&A is. So if you have a question, you're welcome to put it in the Q&A. Just remember that it's public, people can see questions, so don't put any kind of like personal information in there. You could also ask a question anonymously if you would like to. And I'm going to be doing my best to, answer questions or say them out loud to Anna as I go. But we will wait just another minute for everybody to join, and then we will get started. And I know this is a common question people have is, will we have access to this afterwards? And yes, this webinar is being recorded. We're going to put it on our YouTube channel by the end of this week. It can be found on the CalSOAP website, calsoapsandiego.org. We're going to put it up there. We will also share a PDF version of the slide deck there so that you will have access to that after tonight. I just want to reassure everybody that this webinar will be available online and you will be able to view it through our website, and you will have access to the slide deck as well.
All right, thank you so much, Carla. I'm going to go ahead and get started. 6:03.
Okay.
We've got a good number of people in here. So welcome to Financial Aid 101. Today, we're going to kind of talk about what is financial aid and the different types of financial aid, as well as the 4 different college systems and costs of them. So again, just kind of agenda, what is financial aid, types of financial aid, cost of college, and then what can you do now? And then I will leave time for questions at the end. Like Carla said, though, if you did not hear, the Q&A is where you'll want to go in and put questions. Please note that everyone has access to see those. So please don't put any personal information in your question. But please feel free to ask questions and we'll go along, and Carla might stop me a couple times if we're seeing a reoccurring question. So my name is Anna Sorensen. I'm the Associate Director of CalSOAP. I'm also a San Diego Unified School District Head Counselor, and I work with CalSOAP. And through that, we increase the college going rate among low income and first generation students. So we are located in almost all the high schools in San Diego Unified School District, as well as Sweetwater Unified, Grossmont, and Imperial County schools. So we really service all of San Diego and Imperial County. Our services, we have individual student college advisement. So we are located on multiple campuses. We do financial aid workshops and events. We also have middle school and career workshops, as well as summer prep program. How to contact us. So Carla had mentioned we do have our website, as well as Facebook and Twitter. And we also have a virtual classroom as well. So our Instagram account is on there as well. I think it's the @San-Diego CalSOAP. And we try to post a lot on our social media and give you lots of details on what's happening. So it's best to follow us so you can keep up to date. All right, so what is financial aid? So financial aid is money that is being given by either or both the federal, state, college, or private organizations or businesses to students pursuing a higher education after high school. And so really there's 3 types of federal student aid. So the first type is going to be free money. So those are grants. So when you go in and complete the FAFSA form, so the federal student aid application, then it gives you the option of, depending upon what information you put in there, are you eligible for grants? Grants are completely free. You do not have to be repaid. They are yours. And then there are also loans. So loans would be borrowed money. Some people, it's hard to, think of the idea of taking out a loan, but they really are an investment in your future. And if taking a $5,000 loan out allows you to get a college degree, it can be well worth it. And then there's also work study, which is earned money. And so a work study job lets you earn money while you're in school. Our college readiness coaches that are on campus are all college students that are the majority of them working through work study and getting paid while they're going to school. So first I'm going to talk about the free money. So that's the grants. That's the most important. So there are many different types of grants. So in order to get grants, you need to complete the FAFSA, so the free application for federal student aid. And people who have a social security number complete the FAFSA. If you do not have a social security number, that is not a problem. In California, we have the California DREAM Act. Very similar application, just a different link to go to. And so once you complete those two applications, one or the other, then based upon the info, you become eligible for a Cal grant. So that would be a state grant, as well as a Pell Grant, which would be a federal grant. There's also the Promise Grant, which is our community college system that allows you the 2 free years of community college, university grants, scholarships, private scholarships. So all of that happens once you complete one of these applications. So the DREAM Act, sorry, so much on my screen. So the FAFSA, the eligibility requirement, like I said, is students with a social security card or a legal non-resident. And they are eligible then for the federal Pell Grant and or the California State Grant. The DREAM Act then is for undocumented students, and they're eligible only for the California State Grant. So the California State Grant, which again, both people in those two options are eligible. You can see there's a different kind of breakdown in income ceilings. So what they do is they go through, it is obviously provided by the state of California, hence the Cal Grant. There's 3 different types, A, B, and C. And so really it depends on the student's grade point average and household income and size. So this is another reason why we tell students, every year counts in high school. Make sure you're pushing through, get the best GPA you can. The higher your GPA in this case will tie you with additional funding to get Cal Grant A and do that. So it can also be used for nonprofit, it can only be used for nonprofit in state colleges. So that's where the Cal Grant goes to. So then there is the Promise Grant. And again, that waives tuition for the California community colleges. So what that does is your first 2 years of community college can be free. And again, in order to qualify for the Promise Grant, you do need to fill out either the FAFSA or the CATA. So the Promise Grant is available at all California community colleges. The way to complete the application, though, is different. They all require FAFSA or CATA. However, once you complete that, you do need to determine which individual community college you're going to, and then that will kind of determine the additional steps. They all have their own application process for that, but it gives you up to 2 years of free tuition and health fees, individualized counseling, guidance support, book grants for eligible students. So lots of, that's a great opportunity to get 2 years of community college free, and then you can transfer to a 4-year after that. So scholarship. So what is a scholarship? So a scholarship is basically a gift that doesn't have to be repaid. It can be needs-based. And it can also be merit-based. So it could be academics or based on income. And many are targeted towards groups of people. And you typically begin searching for them in your junior or senior year of high school. And so scholarships, again, are free money. They do not need to be repaid. How to find scholarships, talk to your high school counselor. There's also free scholarship search tools, as well as fastweb.com. We also will be having multiple webinars on scholarships as well, so you can join us for that too. So that's all the free money. And then now we'll talk about loans, the borrowed money that you pay back with interest. And I don't want to go into great detail on all of this, but there are mainly 3 major types of loans that will be offered to you if needed. So when you look at your financial aid package that comes, when you're admitted, it will show you first the grants, how much you received in grant money, if that's covered, any scholarships, things like that. And then the amount left over would be through loans. And so with that, there's the direct subsidized. So that is for undergraduate students. And the interest is deferred until after graduation. So you do not start paying interest until after you've graduated. And then there's the direct unsubsidized. So again, this would be undergraduate, graduate, and professional students. The interest on this loan begins when you accept the loan. And then the direct plus loan is the one that is typically made available for families of students. So work study. So again, we're looking at all the ways that we can pay off college. So the first, again, free money through grants, free money through scholarships, loans if we have to, and then work study. So federal work study, it provides part-time employment while you're enrolled in school. It's available to undergraduate, graduate, and professional students with financial need. It's administered by schools participating. And you really just go to your financial aid office to find out more. Like I said, we employ work study students as part of our program. So the majority of students working for us are all college students that are on work study. So I'm gonna just take a quick thing. Is there any questions, Carla, that we need to be answered? Or good?
Let's see, there was a question and I wasn't sure. They said, does senior year count towards our Cal Grant? And I wasn't sure if they meant 12th grade or senior year of college. And then I also wasn't sure if they meant like if they're taking concurrent enrollment classes, or I wasn't totally clear on the question, but maybe you have gotten it before.
So what I think that they're asking, so the GPA that's submitted to Cal Grant, so that will count towards your Cal Grant, is submitted in October of your senior year. So it's up to 11th grade. So while your senior year GPA obviously is extremely important.
Oh, the GPA, I forgot about the GPA.
Yeah, so you just need to make sure that, you keep that up. However, the GPA that is submitted to the Cal Grant website is uploaded in October, so it is only up to your 11th grade year. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. Like I said, I will save time at the end for questions as well. So now let's talk about the cost of college. So the 4 major systems that we're going to discuss that are out there are the UC, the University of California system, the CSU, the California State University system, the private college system, and the community college system. So cost of college. So in-state, our public universities and colleges cost about $10,000. Private universities and colleges cost an average of $36,000 a year, and tuition varies among state colleges and universities. We are lucky in California. We have one of the top state universities, their UCs, our CSUs are great. So we are very lucky with our public education system for higher ed. So looking at the University of California, this is kind of the breakdown for it. Just know that more than 56% of UC California undergrads pay no tuition. That's huge. That's important. And when people think that, you know, they can't go to college because they don't have the money, that is where this all comes in. There is money from the state, from the government, in order to help pay for this. So when we go over this, please don't be discouraged. Instead, it's just to, you know, so you know the fees up front, but know that completing those applications, the FAFSA and the CATA is short for California Dream Act, those two applications lead the way to getting your college paid for, if not all the way, at least hopefully some. So the big difference here, living on campus, living off campus. So UC tuition is there, campus fees, books and supplies. And again, these are all pretty general. And then housing and meals, personal transportation, that can obviously change based on the person. So you see, you're looking pretty much around 35 to 38,000 for attending a UC. And then cost of attendance for the California State Universities. There are 23 campuses. San Diego State is the one closest to us. And so here's the kind of breakdown of fees there. So this would be living with parents. This would be living on campus, off campus. So we've got that, books and supplies. You can see the food and housing really is the biggest chunk of all of these. Transportation and miscellaneous personnel stuff. And so when we're looking at, I'm just going to go with the on campus and off campus because that was what we compared the UCs to. We're looking at 28,000 to 31,000. And then when you're looking at private colleges, it really varies. So we can't say exactly which each one is. However, just some examples, California Lutheran University is about 44, Harvey Mudd, 58, Mills, Pepperdine. So you can see the number is significantly different. Private universities, though, do have scholarships that are available as well. So this is not to, say don't apply to a private university, but it's just to be aware of the difference of the costs. And then there is community college. So, and again, San Diego, we have some amazing community colleges right near us. So we have the San Diego Community College District, which houses City College, Mesa, Miramar, and continuing education. We also have Grossmont College, Southwestern, Cuyamaca College. And so for these, the enrollment fee is about $46 a unit. So like a 4-unit math class would cost $184. Again, if you're looking at the promise though, that does change that because the first 2 years of tuition are covered. So looking at this, this would be at home with parents, but they do still have a housing thing here on this example. So you can see though, the book supplies and enrollment fees are around a little over $2,000. So the rest is all in there, but you're looking about $15,000 for community college, which again, all community colleges, the ones around us, have tag programs like transfer agreements where you can attend for 2 years and then you can transfer to a 4-year university. So that's always an option as well. Okay, so what can you do now? I know hopefully on this call we have some current senior families. We have 11th grade, way to prepare, that's great, or anything younger. I'm happy to have you guys on here to hear this. Seniors, though, it's your time this year. So we're getting ready, and we want to discuss the applications. They're going to open soon. They open October 1st. And there's a couple different links for them. So again, this would be the studentaid.gov. This is the FAFSA link. And then we have the DREAM Act link here. So when you fill out these applications, you're going to need to have some important documents. These are, the FAFSA is a federal document. And so it's the federal government giving you money. So they're going to ask questions to, find out stuff. And sometimes it feels a little intrusive, but really it's a way to get the free money.
Anna, I'm sorry to backtrack, but there was a question about your previous slide. As far as the cost estimates, was that per semester or for one school year?
Per school year.
Per school year, okay.
Yeah. And so on this, you will need this information. And so parents, just a heads up, your student will need this information as well as they'll need your information. So you start with the FSA ID, and they'll ask you for your social security number, birth date, email, phone number, all of that kind of stuff. So that will need to be handy. So if your student is calling and asking, what's your social security number? Hopefully it's because they're sitting there completing their financial aid forms and doing that. We also offer a lot of workshops, and that will be able to be shared through your school counselors. We'll share that out with families. On those workshops, though, we have 7 different hands-on workshops throughout San Diego County on Saturdays, and we encourage families to attend. We also will be having virtual workshops as well on those days. So if it's more comfortable for you to just call in and Zoom and go to a private breakout room with somebody who can help you, then you're welcome to do that as well. So lots of options. Your school counselors can help. There should be a lot of support for everyone. So again, just some stuff that they're going to be asking for: federal income tax returns, your W-2s, any other records of money earned, bank statements, records of investment, and records of untaxed income. So just be aware that these documents are required to complete the forms, but it's well worth it if you're going to get free money for college. So again, how to connect with us, same one. So if you go to the calsoapsandiego.org, you'll be able to find all this information on there as well. And then, like Carla said, we will be posting this recording onto our YouTube channel, which you can link to from there as well. So that's what I have for the presentation. I would be happy to answer questions now at this point.
Okay, I've got one for you.
Okay.
Can we apply to FAFSA during 11th grade or only during 12th? And for GPA-based grants or scholarships, which grade levels do they look at? And do they look at what the GPA was at the end of the year? Okay.
So first part of that question, during 11th grade, you can create your FSA ID, which we encourage that. Your FSA ID, you're going to be entering in your social security number and all that, which it's basically then becomes your login to the application. You do not want to complete your application though until your senior year. Okay, so you want to make sure, because right now when it opens on October 1st, the application they're completing is going to be for the 23-24 school year. And so you wouldn't want to complete an application when you're gonna not need it. So hold off on that, but the FSA ID, the first part you can do your 11th grade year.
And which grades do they look at for a GPA?
So for grants, it's going to be before 11th grade. Okay. For the scholarships though, that really depends on the individual scholarship. So scholarships can be found like University of California. So UC San Diego, let's say, will kind of assess the need of the student, how much money, the EFC, the estimated family contribution, how much money are they going to be able to contribute, They'll look at what were they, what Cal Grant were they awarded? Again, that would be based on GPA. So what Cal Grant were they awarded? They get a certain amount for that. And then did they get any outside scholarships? Yes, no. And then the university, depending upon how much, they're actively recruiting you as a student, they can also, put in merit-based scholarships in there. So they could give the student an additional $10,000 to do that. And that would be the example of a merit-based scholarship coming from the school site. One thing about scholarships, though, that I do want to say, because a lot of times we have families that say, I make too much money. There's no reason for me to complete this. I'm not going to get anything. And I understand that. And, we get that. However, those merit-based scholarships, as well as, any sports scholarships, anything like that, any scholarship that you receive are going to require you to complete the FAFSA or the CAP. They're not going to give you money until they know what your breakdown is. And so if your breakdown is that you can pay fully, that's okay. If they still really want you, they will try to add money in there through the scholarship. So just know, whenever I hear that, it's like, I understand that, but it's also important to do that in case there is a scholarship that the university wants to give you, or, there's a private donor somewhere and you apply for a scholarship, they will all require that. So that's just something important.
So the next question is, if a student attending college is 18 years old, why does the government need parent information? Not all parents can afford the cost of tuition. They might not meet the income requirements for grants, but that doesn't mean that they have enough money for tuition. So for how long are they counting the parents' income, and why does the government do that?
So I believe they are considered dependent. I need to find out the age. Carla, will you check that? I think it's like
I want to say it's 24.
Yeah, I think it's but will you find out so we're exact?
Okay.
So until there are certain circumstances where a student would be considered independent. And those have to do with, where is the student living, the student's contact with parents, things like that. But at 18 years old, even though obviously we consider them adult, in the form of this, they are still considered dependent.
Yeah,
and
until they're 24.
24.
I just
Okay.
looked at that, yeah.
Perfect. And so because of that, the parents' information is still required. And so, yes, I agree with you as far as just because, you don't meet the income requirement doesn't mean that you have $20,000 extra a year for college tuition. And again, that's where the estimated family contribution comes in. They will look at everything, and then they will, give grants and scholarships and offer loans as well based on that. So again, all of those federal loans are not available to you unless you fill out the FAFSA as well, FAFSA or DREAM Act. The next one, for the FAFSA, what tax information is required? So it would be your W-2, and we're looking at the prior year. And parent social security number required. So that is a great question. So a student who has a social security number will complete the FAFSA. If they have a social, they will complete it. If that student who has a social security number's parents do not have a social security number, that's okay. They still complete the FAFSA, and the parents do not put in their social security number, obviously. There will be a separate page where they will actually sign their name and submit it. So there is a way to do that as well. Now, if the student does not have a social security number, they complete the California DREAM Act. What GPA is unweighted? Can you explain how or if applying to college during the early admission period would expect? Carla, what are your thoughts on the early admission period and financial aid?
I would basically say if you're doing early action or early admission, I know a lot of private colleges, there's some out of states do early action and early admission. The benefit of it is that you find out that you're getting in a lot sooner or a lot earlier than you normally would otherwise, so that you can better plan. That doesn't mean that you're going to get extra aid or that you're going to get more or less aid than you normally would if you apply during the regular admission cycle. It just means because you find out that you get in earlier, you can start planning financially earlier, but it doesn't affect really, I don't think, the amount that you would be offered.
Okay, and then I'm going to, I just saw one question about for divorced parents, do you put on, so let me just share my screen. That question comes up all the time. So again, I'm at the studentaid.gov website. It has tons, you literally can just type in the search button, any question.
Can you make that bigger?
I can try. No, because it's kind of,
Okay.
would take my whole thing.
Okay.
But pretty much you can go through here, you know, are my parents married to each other? Yes, then report both their information. Are they not? No. Do your parents live together? Yes. Do they not? Do you live with one parent more than another? So you can go through this process and it will tell you exactly who you report for that information. As well on here, you know, we can look at that dependency question and stuff like that. So there's lots of information on there. So the tax return for the 23-24 school year, this always gets so confusing. They are wanting the 2021 tax return info. You're correct. How long does the FAFSA application take to process? So once you go in and submit it, it depends. So towards the end, so the opening of the FAFSA opens on and CADA opens on October 1st. And it closes on March 2nd. But the sooner you do it, the sooner you're going to know how much money you have to apply to college, as well as anything after that, then you don't get into the pot of money where you get this. It's called, why can't I think of it? Entitlement. The entitlement grant, meaning that if you are a California high school senior graduating, you are entitled to and fall within the specific income level, GPA, all of that, then you are entitled to it. And it's called an entitlement grant. But if you complete the form after that March 2nd deadline, you lose out on that money and it will be like whatever's left over. So we say October is financial aid season. And then in November, when you're completing your applications, you are already going into that process knowing if I go to a CSU, this is how much money I'm going to get. If I go into a UC, this is how much money I'm going to get. Community college, private, it breaks it down for you. So you're not going into that process blind. How do I know if my son will qualify for FAFSA? You just fill it out. So everyone needs to fill it out. And a new assembly bill that came down this year from California is that every student in California, every high school senior needs to complete either the FAFSA form or the California Dream Act. So you'll see there's a big push for that because again, you don't know if you qualify unless you do it. And if you don't fill it out, you will not get access to the scholarships, the grants, any of that. So it's really important. What is considered low income to qualify for scholarships? So when it comes to scholarships, that's going to be dependent upon the scholarship. Is it a private scholarship? Is it a university scholarship? All of that. So I can't really answer that. I would say apply to as many scholarships as possible. And that as far as low income for the Cal Grant, it isn't set considered low income. What it is it's the income ceiling And Carla, if you wouldn't mind searching, I don't know if they've posted up the one for this year yet.
For which school system?
Just for the Cal Grant. So
Oh, for the Cal Grant.
the income ceiling for Cal Grant
Okay.
for this upcoming year. I'm not sure if it's been updated, but we can check. And then how can you get the scholarship for $10,000? Are you talking about referring to the school scholarship? I think it depends on the school that you're going to, grades, all of that. Carla, what is the name? I don't know why I can't think of it right now, of the UCSD scholarship.
Blue and gold.
Yeah, the blue and
Blue and
gold.
gold.
And that is a major one that happens as well. So lots of different options, and you can't get any of them if you don't fill out the applications. So scholarships don't give you money until you've done FAFSA. That is correct. What if you've applied for some scholarships during the 11th grade before you can complete the FAFSA? So for me to say a blanket statement of scholarships don't give money, I mean, there might be a couple that will give you that before that, but what I'm referring to is the school-based merit scholarships, sports scholarships to college. Almost any scholarship that I know of, though, also does require that. So if you completed the scholarship application in 11th grade, let's say, and you got it, at some point when they disperse that money to your college's financial aid, they're going to need to see the FAFSA application, and that's how you're connected to the financial aid. If they just cut you a check, then they might not need to know FAFSA. So it really just depends. There's so many scholarships out there that I can't really blanket that statement like I kind of did. I shouldn't have. Does the payment from work study vary with universities, or it's the same at each college? It varies on the university, college, as well as the job. What are the docs that are required for FAFSA? Carla, is there any chance you can just search that or even copy that part of, that wasn't a exhaustive list though that I put on there?
Yes, let me look it up. And just so you know, I put the income and asset ceiling link in the chat.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, it's not updated for 23-24, but it's for 22-23.
Okay, and that was what I had shared, I didn't know. So they don't count 11th grade at all for grants based on, no, they count 11th grade. 11th grade is probably one of your most important years. So Jana Couts, I'm sorry if that was misunderstood. Yes, your grants are definitely based on your 11th grade GPA. My son is applying to college. What tax return information do I need? So Carla, again, is going to put that in there as far as the tax information needed. Yeah, so FAFSA closes on March 2nd. I don't want you guys to remember that date, though. I want you to remember the October 1st date, because that's when it opens, and that's more important. If a divorced parent who doesn't live with a child doesn't plan on paying for college, does the child still have to put the child support income? So for that specific one, again, you'll want to look at the that chart that I give, that we put on there, and then child support income is reported under additional income on the FAFSA. So when you go through the FAFSA, it's actually pretty, they're making it more intuitive than it used to be. And, you know, so it'll ask questions like, you know, did you receive child support, or, you know, stuff like that. So that would be in there. So for this year, for which year is a tax file required? The tax file that we filed last spring. So if you are a current year senior, if you're of a senior, they're going to be completing the FAFSA application for the 2023-2024 school year, and therefore they will need the prior, which will be the 2021. Okay, so I'm under my older brother on the tax file. Is he considered my parent? So that is a great question. And I want to pull up real quick. Or did you already share the dependents one?
I did, it's in the chat.
Okay, so Kareem, if you go to the dependents one, it's going to tell you just because somebody files you as a tax does not mean that they are considered your parent. So that would kind of be a situation that you'd probably want to discuss with a counselor or a CalSOAP rep if they're on your school site to determine, are you considered dependent or independent? And then it will tell you how to file that way. Carla, is the blue and gold scholarship the same as the Chancellor's scholarship?
It's similar. The Chancellor Scholarship basically uses the blue and gold to pay for the tuition part, but if you get the CASP, the UCSD Chancellor's Associate Scholarship Program, it doesn't only cover tuition and fees, it also covers some additional costs, like it often covers books, it often covers some food, some housing, some additional things. So blue and gold is applying to tuition and fees. If you get the CASP, you also get additional money above and beyond that.
Okay. Someone asked, when FAFSA opens in October, is it considered 2022 or 23 or 23? So look at the year that the student will be going to college. So they will be going to college in 23, 24. It gets confusing. What happens if your income decreased after 2021, which is what FAFSA takes into account. So that is a common situation, especially in the previous year when we were dealing with COVID. We had a lot of that. So you do need to report your income as it was in the 2022 tax statement. You report it directly. If at that point, you know, it says that you're not eligible for a grant or something like that, you would want to contact the financial aid office of the school that you are accepted and admitted to. And you can take that up with the financial aid office and say that you have a big discrepancy in your current income versus your last. And again, that would come in the place of, can the school offer any additional funding through merit-based scholarship through the school? If you've applied for scholarships in 11th and you win, what happens to the money that you win and when do you see it? So that would be definitely dependent on the scholarship. So like I said, some people might give you a check. The majority of scholarships that I've dealt with as a counselor have been where the money then is sent once the student is a senior and has been admitted to the college, accepted that and everything, then that money is sent to the school's financial aid office to first pay down the tuition, coverage, all of that. And then anything less might be, or leftover might be disseminated to the student. But for the most part, that information, that money is sent to the financial aid office. That doesn't mean every scholarship. There could be a scholarship, like I said, that they write you a check. There's so many different scholarships because there's just private scholarships and there's private donors and things like that. But like I said, the majority of ones that I have seen are sent to the financial aid office. How to determine household size. So there will get very specific on the questions in there as far as who is being covered that lives in your household and who is in charge of the financial of that. So, you know, it would depend. There's, as you go through the FAFSA and it gets to the dependents, that's where it will break that down. To clarify, yes, the FAFSA application for 2023-24, you need your 2021 tax return. That's correct. Does the financial aid take into account multiple kids in college? Yes. A question on the FAFSA is, do you have other students in college? And so that is a question that is there. So it does. My mom and dad have kids with their present spouse. Do I count them as part of their household size? So again, that's going to need to be, who are you putting? Are you putting your mom? Or are you putting your dad? If let's say you're putting your mom is the person after you went through that tool, that's who you live with most. They have kids, you would, yes, count their kids as well if the kids live there, and your mom is taking care of them and paying for them financially. So what is a FSA ID? I see it listed as needed to sign electronically. How do I get it? So great question. So the FSA ID is going to be the very first part of the FAFSA. So when you go to studentaid.gov, and I'm just going to share my screen real quick. Oh, so when you go here, so just so you guys know, so this is like the main thing. There's tons of information in here if you want to go really in depth on everything we talked about tonight, how to apply for it, complete the aid process, tons of stuff in here. So if I am here and I've never completed the FAFSA, I will hit create account. And from here, who am I? I'm about to create my FSA ID, okay? So this becomes my login. And so if I was a parent, I would do that. I'm a student, do that. Oh, sorry, my dog. Then I hit get started. And then this is where it's gonna start asking me my personal information. I'm gonna continue and go through this process. And basically, once you get to the end, you enter a lot of information here. Your tax information is not entered. A lot of personal information is. At the end of that, then, that becomes your login. So what email you put there will be part of your login. So make sure it's an email that you have access to. And so that's your FSA ID. Then as a student, you need to go create one. As a parent, you need to create one also. However, if you are a parent that is undocumented, you don't create an FSA ID, you will do a sign, you will sign printed out paper. So you do not sign electronically, you sign a printed paper. Student and, yeah, so the student and parent both create an account. They will be connected. Now, if the parent, as a parent, if you have a student who has already gone through this process, the FSA ID that you created for that, so let's say I have a daughter who is already in college, then they would, I would have already created an FSA ID. I use the exact same one. You don't go and create another one. It's attached to your social security number. So once you create it once, that's what you have. So be aware of that. Both parents have to create an account. No, it will be, you can go on and it will be tied to one parent's account. Okay. Lots of really good questions. Why does the parent need to create an account? So that is because that's how they're signing off, and it is the parent's information and tax information being put in there. So they're signing off. Kareem, though, in your case, I think that probably like a off camera conversation needs to happen to determine if you're dependent or independent. If you're determined as independent, then there is no parent in the application process. So, and I only say that just based on an earlier question you asked. So I would kind of have speak with a school counselor on site. If a parent is not a US citizen, should they do the FAFSA by paper? No, do not do that paper FAFSA. That thing you have to send in, it takes forever to process, go through the process online. The student will create an FSA ID. The parent will not if they're undocumented. And at the very end, it will say, how would you like to sign for the parent? It'll say, how would you like to sign? And if you have an FSA ID, you sign electronically, you just hit a button and it's done. If the parent does not have an FSA ID due to not having created one because they didn't have a social, they will say, would you like to print? and then you print it out, you sign the paper, it tells you exactly where to mail it to, put it in an envelope, address it, and send it off. And then that will suffice as the signature for that. So hopefully that answers that. All right. Looks like the questions have slowed. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Again, if you have any additional questions or would like to contact us, our information is on the calsoapsandiego.org website, and we would love to hear from you. And we will be hosting a lot more of these webinars once a month. So we look forward to seeing all of you again. So thank you so much for coming.
All right. Thank you, everybody.